Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1 on the ETCG1 channel, The Hat. Here on ETCG1 we talk about stuff, we don't do repair videos. If you're looking for repair videos, check down in the description. There'll be a link to my Eric the Car Guy channel. You can go there and watch all the repair videos you like. However, if you wish to stick around and join in the conversation, welcome. For today's topic, the art of the upsell. And I can't recall whether or not I've covered this topic exactly in the past, but it is something as a technician or as a customer you may encounter out in the repair world. So I hope to just touch on a few key points, and you're welcome to join in the conversation both in the comments, and there will also be a link in the description to discussion about this topic over at my forum. Anyhow, the art of the upsell. It's something I think I've gotten pretty good at. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but there are a few key things that I think will help you if you need to upsell something. And an upsell, for those of you not familiar with the term, is, say you bring your vehicle in for service and you have a particular service that you're looking to get, and you get an estimate on that service. Say you get an oil change, tire rotation, let's say. That comes at a given price. And during the course of the inspection, or during the course of that service, they perform an inspection and they may find another issue. Maybe you got low brake pads, maybe something's going on. And they find it during the course of that service. Well, the next thing they do is they call you up and say, hey, we found this issue with your vehicle, it's gonna cost a little bit more, hence the upsell. So they sell you something above and beyond what you had originally intended on spending with them. Here are my tips on this, as far as on the selling side of things. Added value is a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, but really what the upsell is should be something in that vein. Behind me in 1997, Honda Accord, it's getting a new evaporator and expansion valve because they were leaking. Sorry, I didn't make a video on that. But also they had said something about the possibility that there's an oil leak, and they wanted me to see if I can find the origin of it. Well, knowing what I know about these vehicles, I looked underneath the distributor. It's quite common for the distributor O-ring to get hardened up and leak oil, and that's exactly what I found in this car. So rather than, but the way it appears when you first look at it from underneath is it looks like it might be the rear main seal that's leaking really badly, but anytime with oil leaks, always start up high and then work your way down. Sort of clean as you go type of thing. That way you sort of get a better gauge on where that stuff is coming from. But I digress, I'm getting off topic here. So, the part itself is only like $2 for that O-ring. Taking the distributor out and putting it back in, also not that taxing. So it's really not that bad a job to do. The distributor's up top, easy to get to, held down by 3 fasteners. You mark it before you remove it, and you'll be able to get it back right in where it was before. You don't have to mess with the ignition timing, nothing. Just boom, boom, you're done. Well, the upsell to this, and it's kind of it's definitely a psychological thing. The way I started it, and in fact, I had already removed the distributor to have a look at the O-ring to see if I had one, and fortunately I did. But during the course of the removal of that, I also found that the oil had leaked on one of the heater hoses. This is also another common fault with these Hondas. When these distributor O-rings start to leak, the oil gets onto coolant hoses and causes them to expand and break. Similar to the video I did on the Fairmont not too long ago, where that upper radiator hose went because of oil contamination. Once again, I'm getting off topic. But anyway, so here's what I did. I said, okay, I found your oil leak. And that's all I started with. And then I talked about the distributor O-ring. I also talked about the coolant hose. And all I did with the coolant hose was the same thing I did with the Fairmont, where I cut off the bad section, put it back in place, and put the clamp on there, because those are really kind of hard to find and a little bit expensive. So I opted for that. It works just fine. I'm comfortable with that repair. It'll last a good long time, but it was literally about to burst. So the upsell came with, one, solving of their problem right out of the gate, and solving other potential problems that could have happened, adding value to that service. So all in all, just a couple of bucks and they're down the road, and I threw in the rest of the stuff because we're doing all this other work anyway. And this is a friend of mine. So anyway, that was the upsell, and that's the way I've usually approached it. If you go in with fear, they're going to sense that fear, and they're going to say, are they pulling one over on me? You really have to be confident in your upsells, and you really have to know what you're talking about. You have to be able to explain and answer the customer's questions. I think that's a big part of the upsell. Why do I need to spend this extra money is what they're thinking, because as it is, they didn't have the money to do the repair to begin with, and now you're coming at them and asking for more money they don't have. And that's the way you have to approach it. But you can't be so scared that you're not going to be able to be effective at providing good service, because the upsell isn't necessarily there to make you more money. The upsell is there to take care of your customer, and that's the mentality you should take when you approach this. If you're upselling something, it's not so much to get more money out of the ticket or the work order. It's there to add value for the customer, so that when the customer comes in, yeah, they're coming in for this, but you find that while they're in. So you address that, and if nothing else, you make them aware of that. And here's the other thing that's key. If they decline your upsell, that's fine. It's their car, they can do whatever they want with it. But make sure you note on the work order that you found an issue. That way there's a record of it. Because if they come back and say that coolant hose burst later on down the road, then I'm on the hook, because I was just in there or something like that. Whereas if it comes out that I noted on the work order some time ago that this could become an issue, or the brake pads were low, they should get them replaced, it's about to go metal to metal and cause them to buy rotors as well, you know, customer always has a choice to refuse the work, but you also have an obligation to document those issues that you've found. And that way your butt is covered. Both with you and with the customers. The customer comes back, they may be pissed off, irate, because you didn't catch something during the course of service. And this is the dual-edged sword. Some customers are like this. And let's face it, auto repair is a difficult thing for people. And mainly because many of them don't understand what's happening. And they have a tendency to feel like they're being taken, because they're going into that situation with ignorance. And when you approach an upsell, approach it as an educational opportunity. Try to convey to them your knowledge of the problem and how you're going to go about addressing that problem. I'm going to replace this part and it's going to make it better. Oh, and by the way, while I'm in there replacing this part, experience has taught me it's a good idea to do this part. Example, replacing the evaporator in this car because it was leaking. Same time, I'm also going to replace the expansion valve. Why? It's attached to the evaporator. So it doesn't make sense. You would have to go through all the same work to do the same thing. Now, there's nothing wrong with the expansion valve in this car as far as I can tell right now, but the idea is I've got it out there. It's just the cost of the part in addition to everything else. I'm not going to charge any additional labor, just going to offer you the option to take care of a potential problem further in the future, and that way we're just done with this repair, and that's that. Another example is say you're doing a clutch job. Perfect time to take a look at a rear main seal, you know, just to see. You have the transmission out, otherwise you're going to have the transmission out to get to the seal again later anyway. So if you're doing a clutch job, it makes sense, pull the flywheel off, take a look at the rear main seal. If it's leaking, say, hey, sir, madam, it appears that the rear main seal on your vehicle is leaking at this time. For the additional cost, the cost of the seal, whatever, nominal cost of labor, come on, you've already got it apart. Just charge them for the parts. And that's a lot of it too. If these are targets of opportunity, as I call them, in other words, you've already got something like a transmission already out for another service that's unrelated, and you find an issue that you can address while that transmission is out, such as a rear main seal or something like that. In my eyes, it's just the cost of the parts. You know, it's not that much more labor to go and do through and do something. Now, some vehicles may be a little bit different with the way the rear main seal is constructed, or whatever issue you're trying to address during that quote-unquote major service. You're replacing an engine. Maybe you get it from a salvage yard. Maybe it's a timing belt engine. Good time to do a timing belt water pump while it's out of the vehicle. You know, little things like this. It's targets of opportunity and educating your customer. Now, I spoke earlier about from the customer's point of view with this issue, the art of the upsell. Now, as a customer, you are perhaps a bit suspicious of the upsell. Perhaps you go into it thinking, well, geez, I mean, I came in here to spend this much and now they're asking me to spend another $100 or something like that. Why? Why do I have to do this? Well, as a consumer, you have the ability, especially now, if you have a smartphone, I mean, you can Google your problem. You can Google your issue on your particular vehicle, and you can find out if it is a common problem with your car, if it is something that's often sold with that service. In fact, you can arm yourself with this information before you go in for a service. Say your vehicle has like 40, 50,000 miles on it, and your vehicle's known at 40, 50,000 miles to have a certain problem. that crops up, and you're taking it to a repair shop that works on a lot of these vehicles, or enough of these vehicles to be aware of the common issue that they may be looking for during the course of a service. And they may find that you do indeed suffer from whatever ailment that that vehicle suffers from. And they say, hey, you know. And then going back to the service side of thing, as a technician or as a shop owner, when you're talking to your customers, you can let them know ahead of time. You can say, look, we're going to perform this service, but while we're in there, we might find X, Y, and Z. If so, it's going to cost this. Here's another thing for you shop owners and technicians. Don't go to the customer with just the problem. Go to the customer with the problem and the solution. And what I mean when I say that is, okay, here's the problem that we found, but it's going to cost this to fix it. So have the cost already ready, because that's the next thing they're going to ask you right out the gate. They're going to ask you how much to, you know, in addition to what I'm spending, am I going to need to address this issue? So be prepared and arm yourself with information and educate the customer. You know, don't leave them in the dark. Don't just say, because I said so. That's not really an effective sales technique. Something that would be more effective is, okay, this is the way this works, or in the case of this distributor O-ring. Distributor O-rings get old, they get brittle. And once they get old and brittle, oil starts to leak past them. They no longer perform their function. Therefore, we need to replace it with a new one. And the new one is rubbery, pliable, and it doesn't cost that much. You know, that's the thing, that's the adding value. But as a customer, do your best to educate yourself. As a shop owner and a technician, do your best to educate your customer when you do these upsells, because they're going to be suspicious. They may be suspicious. They're long-time customers, that kind of thing. They're probably not going to question you because you haven't steered them wrong in the past and you've always taken care of their vehicles. That's the way it should be. But if you're a new customer coming into a new place, or there's a new customer coming into your place, there's a bit of feeling it out. There's a bit of figuring each other out to find out if everybody's on a level. Because customers can be just as bad as bad shops in some cases. So, you know, you have to take that into account as well. And it's difficult to say who's good and who's, well, it's not difficult to say who's good and who's bad, but I'm not going to sit here and say who's good and who's bad. I'm just going to provide useful advice to those out there either seeking auto repair or performing auto repair. At least that's my intent. Anyway, you can decide that, and we can discuss this further either in the comments or over at my website on the forum thread that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And hey, if you have automotive questions, I would ask that you head over to ericthecarguy.com. There's a welcome video there to tell you about our amazing features at ericthecarguy.com that can help you with automotive issues, should you have them. If you wish to connect with me socially, I can be found on Google+, Facebook, and Twitter, and I close each of my videos with be safe, have fun, and stay dirty. And I will see you next time.